Alrighty, everybody. Let me just double check that my mic is working. Okay, we are good to go. Glad to see you guys back in here for another live stream on the channel. We have Philip Edits, your local. We have 3.14, Legacy, Brian, Indiana. We have Kevin, but he renamed himself. And let me go up. We have Market in here as well. And of course, everybody else who may be watching and just might not be chatting, glad to have you in here for another stream. Hi, Cease, welcome to the stream as well. Let's go ahead and switch it right on into this. I'm just going to double check a few things. We should be good to go. It's been a little while, probably like a whole entire 3 days since the last time I've seen you guys. I think it's actually been less than that. Matter of fact, I'm going to go check just briefly. Yeah, it's been about 2, almost 3 days since I last seen y'all. And yeah, we just got a tropical storm warning, literally not but close to an hour ago. The National Hurricane Center ended up designating potential tropical cyclone, I think 8. I think we're on the 8th one now at this point. Located just off the coastline of the Carolinas. Yes, it's PTC 8. Here is the cone and the projected track for that. So we are expecting a tropical storm out of this. It didn't come out of nowhere. We just haven't really mentioned it a whole lot. And it really developed over like the last 2 to 3 days. So as long as you were paying attention to the weather forecast, it wouldn't have snuck up on you. But then again, the NHC, they only had a 50% chance of this thing forming. And then boom, here we are, tropical storm expected tonight. So I guess it did partially come up out of nowhere. I'm going to go to the mid-level water vapor imagery. So there's where your current tropical storm force winds are ongoing, right here with this big blob of convection. Just to the southeast of Wilmington, North Carolina, tropical storm conditions are expected, if not ongoing, all the way from portions of Beaufort, North Carolina, all the way down to the coastal areas out towards Charleston, South Carolina. There's our current wind field. Again, that's as of about an hour ago. So Southport, you're most likely already seeing near, if not tropical storm force wind speeds. Landfall of about 50-mile-per-hour wind speeds, sustained gusts upwards of 65 right around the time frame of 2 p.m. Eastern tomorrow. I do think this will have a little bit more time than that. I think we're going to be looking at more of about a 5 o'clock landfall, about right around now. But tomorrow we should be seeing landfall. So I think this thing has a good 18 to 24 hours of strengthening to go. I don't think it will strengthen that much. I think 50 is about as much as we're going to see out of this thing. And the main threat's definitely going to be flash flooding and the potential for a couple tornadoes out of this tropical storm, which I think it's going to be Helene. I think it's Helene. Honestly, I can't even remember, but I believe Helene is going to be the next name on the list here. Severe weather outlook for tomorrow. I'm going to get rid of that satellite imagery so you guys can see it a bit clearer here. There's your 2% tornado risk. It almost extends all the way up towards Raleigh. I am considering a chase on this for tomorrow, although I'm really uncertain if I'm actually going to go. I'm thinking about heading out towards near the Goldsboro area, but I don't know if I'll actually commit to that or not. It depends on if that tornado threat is a lot more elevated, but at the moment, it is a marginal risk for tornadoes, a very large 2% chance for tornadoes. I do think we'll see a 5% tornado risk introduced on the coastal areas, somewhere generally around this area for tomorrow. And that prime tornado threat is probably going to be in the late evening into the very early nocturnal hours. And then if we go ahead and go into day 3, there's not a marginal risk at the moment out here, but they may introduce a marginal threat somewhere out here in Virginia on the day 3 threat as well. But at the moment, no marginal risk is in place over the Carolinas or Virginia. We do have a marginal back out here in the plains on day 3, though. And, wow, winter weather advisory out there for Cali. I even noticed that. That's for the extreme higher elevations of California, of course. I do think flooding is going to be the biggest issue, so I think flooding, and then our tornado threat, then our tropical storm force damaging wind threats, and then I think our lowest threat out of this is going to end up being the storm surge. But here's our flash flooding threat for tomorrow. We do have a large, slight risk, level 2 out of 4 for excessive rainfall. This encompasses a very large chunk of North Carolina, portions of Virginia as well, and then we have some portions of South Carolina as well, so both of the Carolinas and Virginia. Then we have a larger marginal risk, level 1 out of 4, surrounding that for tomorrow. Day 3, they have a large marginal. I could see this getting upgraded to a slight risk, depending on exactly where the track would be. Generally, somewhere in here is probably going to get a slight risk for excessive rainfall on the day 3 outlook. And I don't think... Okay, never mind. We do have a marginal risk on day 4 as well. And day 5, it goes back down south towards almost my area. So that's all your outlook. So there's tomorrow's outlook. That's Mondays, Tuesdays, Wednesdays, and Thursdays outlook for excessive rainfall. And so the main flash flooding threat's definitely going to be for tomorrow. We could have some isolated areas. Personally, I think about 5 to 6 inches of rainfall. Probably going to be on the more southern side of this slight risk, generally out from like the Jacksonville to Myrtle Beach area. When will it get named? It'll get named tonight, probably either at the 8 o'clock advisory, but most likely at the 11 p.m. advisory, it will be named Tropical Storm Helene. Let's see. Yeah, I just looked at that, Brian. I literally just looked at that. I just looked at that winter weather advisory. So tropical storm warnings are up. We're going to go ahead and go to the NHC so that way we can have our, normal products. Here we go. So this is your cone of uncertainty that everybody is hopefully very familiar with. Remember, the low pressure could track anywhere inside of the cone. Impacts will be felt outside of that cone of uncertainty. So we're expecting landfall somewhere probably between Charleston, but closer to Myrtle Beach, South Carolina. Progresses along the far western side of North Carolina and Virginia. So technically, in theory, as we've talked about with past tropical storms and tropical systems, the east side is always the greatest threat for tornadoes. So we should have, whilst marginal, at least a low wind threat for a couple tornadoes all the way from my area out here in Virginia. I think I'm generally right there, back down to where Lucky is, and then, of course, in the coastal areas of the Carolinas as well. So I do think we'll have a couple tornadoes. I don't think it's going to be like a barrel situation, but a few tornadoes will definitely be a possibility, primarily tomorrow evening. Depending on if I go, we may or may not be live for that. It just depends on if I end up chasing that tornado threat or not. But yeah, this point here is for 2 a.m. So we should see a tropical storm. Most likely, I'm thinking the 11 o'clock advisories when we'll see our named storm here. But it may be as late as potentially tomorrow morning. It could be a last-second tropical storm. It's going to depend on when this starts to really warm up to be a warm core storm as opposed to a cold core storm. It's currently attached on a boundary. There's your storm surge forecast. I don't think there's any specific area that could see locally higher. Just generally the potential for 1 to 3 foot storm surge along this whole area. I don't believe we'll be seeing storm surge watches or warnings needed with this system, thanks to our storm surge staying most likely beneath 3 feet. And there's your flash flooding, or rather your rainfall totals that the Weather Prediction Center is currently predicting. That's why I was saying, we may see a slight risk for excessive rainfall generally up in this area, because we could see upwards of 6 inches of rain in some spots, mostly in higher elevation. But the coastal areas, that's where you're going to be looking at the majority of your flash flooding threat. And wow, look at that. Actually, upwards of I believe that's upwards of 8 inches of rainfall right there, pretty much right over Wilmington, which is where me and Lucky actually stayed to chase Tropical Storm Debbie earlier this year. And that area is going to be hit again by a tropical storm. I don't think it'll be even close to as bad as Debbie. Debbie was catastrophic for flash flooding. I don't think it had much storm surge, and then it did have actually a few strong tornadoes too. So Debbie, I don't think this is going to be a repeat of Debbie. Debbie was definitely, at least at the moment, was worse. There's your WPC outlook. We already looked at that. And that's your current watches, warnings with your overlaid tropical storm force wind speeds in the orange there. And those blues are your tropical storm force, or rather your tropical storm warnings. So talking about preparations need to be extremely rushed to completion, preferably done as soon as possible if you are inside these blue areas. So that goes all the way from southwest of Charleston, South Carolina, through Myrtle Beach, through Oak Island, all the way up through Beaufort and Emerald Isle. You guys need to be finishing preparations tonight, and they need to be done tonight. I don't think you need to do that much preparations unless you're on the very coastal areas. Just basically make sure you are hyper weather aware if you are inside those warning areas. I don't believe there's going to be much preparations. Just keep a very close eye on the forecast, very close eye on your watches and warnings, and you should be perfectly fine. I'd be shocked if we see evacuations for this. I'd be blown away. So yeah, and then more inland, we could see some gusty winds go all the way along the far western side of North Carolina, generally in this area here. And then, like I said, that tornado threat spanning on the east northeast quadrant of eventually tropical storm Helene. Let me see here. Let me see. Proxy, I think you're in Western Virginia. Yeah. I don't think you'll have that much of a threat. Your main threat will probably be gusty wind speeds. If we look at the track, yeah, your threat's probably going to be mainly gusty winds. I'll check the flooding threat, but I think the flash flooding is going to remain off to most of the flash flooding will remain off to your east, and your main issue is going to end up being, well, you could still see some flash flooding out there, upwards of 2 to 4 inches of rainfall. And then I will check your wind speeds here. Yeah, you could have wind gusts possibly near 30 miles per hour. So your main threat's going to be gusty winds, but I don't think it's going to be much of an interruption. It's just going to be more of an annoyance. You're not going to want to go outside as much because of the heavy rainfall and some gusty winds. So you could see some isolated power outages out there. That's probably your main issue, is the potential for power outages, thanks to anything that may fall on power lines like branches, trees, or just not the best structures out there. I know here in Martinsville, Virginia, our power poles are built like twigs, a gust of 15, 20 miles per hour. Some of them could even fall with that. They are not built well. Those things are like toothpicks, man. They can break quite easily. So power outages may end up being the biggest issue here out in your area. The tornado threat should be very minimal. Very, very minimal. If even a possibility. I really don't think you'll see any tornado threat out there. Here's our current radar view of it. So, yeah, your tropical storm force wind speeds, as well as uh, some very moderate rainfalls, already approached Wilmington, Myrtle Beach, Southport. You guys are already getting in on some quite the holy crap. Holy cow, that is the fact that we're able to see the low pressure super clear from radar is kind of wild. Look at that. You can clearly tell where that low pressure is located here on radar imagery. My goodness, I saw that out the corner of my eye. But yeah, a lot of moderate to heavy rainfall going into Myrtle Beach, North Myrtle Beach, Wilmington, Southport. You guys need to already have preparations done. Main preparations would just be making sure your weather radio has batteries in it, your phone's charged, devices are charged, your family is aware of a tropical storm approaching, not wanting, or you shouldn't go outside. Those are really your main preparations. Just don't go outside, and make sure your family knows that it's a tropical storm heading your way. And I wonder if they'll cancel schools tomorrow, because tomorrow is a Monday. So I don't know what the criteria for school cancellations are here on the coastal areas of Carolinas. Yeah, very clearly can see that area of circulation here moving off to the north. Very, very clear. Very, very clearly moving off to the northeast at the moment. Um, and we'll see what happens. I mean, that is definitely really interesting for sure. I may want to wake up a little bit early tomorrow, just in case I end up wanting to chase this thing. Here is a simulated radar for 3 p.m. and you can see multiple bands of tornadic supercells set up off the coastal areas of the Carolinas here. Specifically, I should really say specifically North Carolina. So we'll be monitoring for that. I do think a few tornadoes are going to be a very real possibility with these bands as they move onshore. And that should continue throughout the most of the night. And then eventually, as we get into Tuesday, we're going to watch for some more bands that could set up off the coastal areas of Virginia and North Carolina. And that could bring in some more tornadic potential, potentially as far inland as my neck of the woods out here in Martinsville, and as well as far north into areas like Harrisonburg and Washington, D.C. Although that tornado threat would be very, very, very minimal. I do think if we're going to see any notable tornado threat, it's definitely going to be in the very late afternoon to specifically the evening hours out here from pretty much Myrtle Beach, but especially into Wilmington, Jacksonville, Emerald Isle, Beaufort, New Bern, possibly up towards Greenville and Goldsboro, which is where I would be targeting if I could chase, because I don't know if I'm going to take a 4-hour drive all the way to Wilmington. I think Wilmington's actually about 3 hours away, so yeah, we'll see what the 00Z HRRR has. Here's the NAM 3K, which, like I've said before, never want to use it for intensity and a location of a tropical storm making landfall, but it can be good for pointing out a tornado threat. And here you go into 7 o'clock. The NAM doesn't have 3 bands. It instead has 2 bands of supercells that move on shore. So things really ramp up at about 5 o'clock Eastern for that tornado threat, and it continues throughout the nocturnal hours. And then you move into, let's see what happens at 2 o'clock. Oh, look at that, 5 o'clock. The NAM 3K has a band setting up all the way from far eastern North Carolina, and then that spreads into Virginia. Most of Virginia would be under a tornado threat there. Look at that. Now, that's a lot of cells right there. Let me look at the tornado ingredients on that. Yeah, not very high tornado ingredients on the NAM 3K. That's not a shocker at all. I'm sure it had a much higher threat for tomorrow. Yeah, look at that. Tomorrow afternoon. There you go. So I definitely believe that tomorrow is going to be your main threat for tornadoes, and it's going to be focused along all the way from Myrtle Beach all the way back up towards like Greenville, Goldsboro, North Carolina. Flash flooding potential is definitely going to be an issue. We're definitely going to have some isolated instances of potentially significant flooding. I don't know if... Oh, it would be up here. Come on now. It'd be up with the precipitation. go all the way to the end here. This is just a model run. But wow, this is a very aggressive model run. Yeah, let's use something that could be a little bit more accurate, like the NAM 12K. Yeah, so you could see that significant flash flooding. If we do see significant flooding, it's going to be wherever landfall will be. So keep in mind that this location is going to vary a lot. We could see landfall potentially as far southwest as west of Charleston, and we could also see landfall as far northeast as potentially Wilmington. So anywhere between this area, anywhere in here is going to have a risk for significant flash flooding. It's just a matter of exactly where it makes landfall. I do think we'll see some isolated amounts upwards of 8 inches of rainfall, but as for the NAM showing a foot of rain, I think that is just the NAM being the NAM. We could go for like the RAP model here, or not the RAP, we'll have to do GFS. Stubborn GFS model. Yeah, see, that's more realistic. See, upwards of 6 inches of rain on the GFS. I think that's a more realistic scenario. I think the NAM was just being the NAM. And you could see specifically where that significant flood threat would be on this model run would be right over Myrtle Beach. So this would be landfall right over Myrtle Beach. If we bring this back, yeah, there's your low pressure right in here. And it'd take it right through, probably just to the west, if not over Myrtle Beach, South Carolina. This is very freaking early. This is a 9 a.m. landfall. Very, very freaking early landfall right there. 9 a.m. landfall according to the GFS model run. I don't see that happening. I don't see that happening. I don't think we'll be looking at a 9 a.m. landfall here. This thing's still somewhat attached to the boundary, so I don't believe we're going to be seeing a landfall at 8, 9 a.m. in the morning. That is probably way too fast. Meet Lucky downtown Raleigh. No. No, Lucky can't chase, unfortunately. Even if this came in on, like, Saturday, you know, yesterday, and it made landfall yesterday, we still wouldn't be able to chase. So, I don't know if I'm going to end up chasing it. It does look like quite a bit of hazards, especially coastal tornado threats, for sure. That's going to be your biggest issue, as well as flash flooding. But I don't plan on chasing that unless the tornado threat goes up towards my area, and then I'll end up chasing it Tuesday. But I'll just monitor it. Definitely wouldn't count out a chase with this one. All right, let me go and bring up the National Hurricane Center yet again. We're going to go over to the NHC Outlook. There's Gordon. Gordon did form yesterday, I believe. Pretty sure it was it early yesterday? It might have been actually Friday night. Might have been Friday night when Gordon formed. It was sometime, and honestly, I don't remember. But it did form. It's now a tropical depression. It's expected to stay a tropical depression, go out to sea. There's PTC 8, soon to be Tropical Storm Helene. And I do think eventually we're going to see a 10%, if not slightly higher, chance for a tropical storm to develop somewhere in here along the Western Caribbean. There's a lot of model guidance that is pointing towards eventually tropical storm. If it can form, it would be Tropical Storm Isaac. And some model guidance takes it towards Florida. Some model guidance takes it through the Bahamas and then back out to sea. So I would definitely be monitoring in the Caribbean as well. We're going to go ahead and dive into some ensembles. We're just going to look at ensembles for this one. And then I want to go ahead and move on into another topic. But first, let's go ahead and look at ensembles. So here is your GFS ensembles. Let me make sure that this goes out as far as I want it to. All right, so here's Weather Nerds with your GFS ensembles. And you can see a lot of different scenarios here, but a lot of general agreement on a tropical storm heading somewhere between southern Florida into eastern Cuba. So I would be monitoring that tropical wave. I've already seen But believe it or not, I've actually already seen hype about this system. It's not even marked on the NHC yet, and there is definitely a heckload of uncertainty with it. We're still looking at a good week out before we really start nailing down any type of possible tracks for a tropical storm. This thing could literally not even form. You see a few of these literally just dissipate out here. I don't know exactly where this is. It's north of Central America. So there's a possibility that it does absolutely nothing. Your European ensemble models as well. Those show a more realistic approach with generally a tropical depression or storm potentially moving through Cuba and then out to sea. So we're just going to keep an eye on it. I'm not going to talk a whole lot about it because it's far out. There's a lot of uncertainty. So I wouldn't be worried about it, but I would be watching it. So anybody in like Central Florida through the Yucatan Peninsula into all of Cuba as well as the Bahamas, make sure you're just keeping an eye on the far western Caribbean just in case something could spin up. But it could very easily be another one of those cases with this hurricane season where we watch a wave. I can't remember which one it was, but we were watching a wave out here. All the models showed a hurricane to a major hurricane going through the Caribbean and then into the Gulf, and that never happened. So could just be some aggressive ensembles and aggressive model runs. So that's why I don't really want to mention it much and dive on into it. But do watch it. Keep an eye in this area. See if the NHC ends up highlighting an area of interest, and if they do, that's when we can really start talking about it. Once the NHC starts talking about it, we can really start talking about it. Whatever this thing's named, I never even bothered to try to pronounce the name of that thing. It did make landfall in Baja California. It almost made landfall and might have actually barely made landfall in Mexico as a tropical storm, but it got absolutely demolished by wind shear. Absolutely destroyed by wind shear right as that thing either made landfall on Mexico or just barely missed western Mexico. And that's your quick tropical update there. I'm going to go ahead and bring y'all over to the next subject, which is going to be everybody's favorite, severe weather. It's severe weather potential. So let's go ahead and start off with our supercell composite on your GFS ensembles. This is like a little bit of a cheat code to figure out where your greatest severe threat may be. And you'll notice something big here. A downtrend, a very major downtrend in our ensembles. If I could go to, okay, I can't go into like a different ensemble, but not nearly as good of a signal as what we had beforehand. And that is due to the lack of instability, as well as the trough ejections not being as far east as what they were initially projected to be on these model runs. So you can see the first one is pretty far west. I mean, this is going to be a poorly timed trough ejection, mainly a North Dakota, South Dakota, Nebraska threat for some isolated hail, isolated winds, maybe a very small tornado threat. Doesn't even look like a tornado threat there for that one. That would be on the 17th, or rather the 18th of September. Maybe a marginal tornado threat up there in North Dakota, South Dakota. I do see it there. And then we go into the next one, our next trough here on September 20th. This is the one that was getting all the hype, and it just really doesn't do much. I mean, it kind of just fizzles out and merges with the jet stream to the north. The Rockies destroy it, and it's really gone. So the SPC hasn't highlighted a 15% chance for severe weather just yet. They're still mentioning the threat for severe weather, but it's definitely a lot more of a marginal signal at this point. Not much I'm concerned about for severe weather, but it's still going to be something to watch if you're out here in the northern plains. Generally in this region here, I would be watching for severe weather all the way from September 18th to September 21st. But I don't think we're going to have anything as notable as what I originally thought. We still could see some significant hazards in terms of hail, maybe significant wind, but I don't think we're going to be looking at much of a tornado threat. I never really thought we were going to from the start, but even now it looks a lot more marginal. Other than What is this? I don't know if this is Ontario or not. That might be into Ontario there. That would be if we had that into the U.S., I'd be a lot more concerned. But that's going to be a Canada threat probably. So I'll still monitor it. You never know, could uptrend. But at the moment, I'm a whole heck of a lot less concerned for severe weather. As we go into late September, the signal kind of died. It kind of went bye-bye, like almost completely. Holy Megatroph! Wow. That is a big trough ejection. I'm gonna have to go ahead and do this really quick. Look at this end of the GFS model run right there. That's the end of the GFS for you. That's the Fantasyland. The Fantasyland GFS you all know and love, that normally spits out like category 5s in July. Yeah, that's your random Fantasyland right there. Don't listen to that. It just kind of caught me off guard because I was like, what? That is a big trough ejection right there. I don't even think that'd be much severe weather, honestly, because of the lack of instability. Yeah, look at that. Big lack of instability. You have widespread, what, 500 cape? Big lack of instability, and you have a capping. So that wouldn't even be like a ridiculous severe weather event. That's what's crazy. That wouldn't even be a big time severe weather event. It'd just be a ridiculously large trough ejection with some. It'd have some severe weather, but it wouldn't be, the ridiculous mega troughs we've seen before. I'm waiting for the new GFS. We're going to look at that together, the 12Z GFS here. Or rather, the 18Z GFS. See if it has something hitting Florida around the 23rd, 24th. Switch it all over here. All right. So here's your GFS on your GFS 18Z model run on tropical tidbits. It's really difficult to spot your area of interest if you're not really looking for it. As somebody who is really looking for this and knows where it is, I can see it right now. There's what's left of Gordon. There's a low pressure off the coastline there of Nova Scotia. And that is your AOI right there, your area of interest on model runs. Not from the NHC just yet, but just your tropical wave there. You'll see it develop on the 18Z GFS. It pulls off the northwestern side of South America, goes into the southwestern Caribbean, just south of Jamaica, moves into, or just west of Jamaica into the Cayman Islands, goes through Cuba, and then it just really disappears. We'll see if it comes back on the later frames here of the 18Z GFS. But not much to speak of. If we go to a different model run, I'll just show you why we're watching this wave. Here's the CMC with a more worst case scenario. There's your tropical wave off the coastline of northwestern South America, moves just to the south of Jamaica, hits the Cayman Islands as a tropical storm, hits western Cuba as a tropical storm, and strengthens into a hurricane, probably a category 2 hurricane into southwestern Florida. So that's your CMC model run there. A lot of different scenarios. If we just go one model run back, you'll see it does actually generally have the same thing. So this model has been consistent over the last 3 days. However, I don't think a single other model run shows it. Yeah, here's your icon model. That just shows the low pressure east of Florida. Not really anything. Your NavGem, I don't think goes that far out. You can see the tropical wave on NavGem. Go to your European 12Z, see if that shows anything. Nothing at all. You can see that wave. You see the wave, but it looks like it gets caught up in something out here and off the coastline of the Yucatan Peninsula. So it's just the CMC that is really looking for a tropical storm or a hurricane to form. I don't see any other model runs that show that. Which is why I said there's nothing to be worried about. Just keep an eye on it. It is hurricane season. So we're just going to watch this general area for the potential of a spin-up tropical system. But by no means am I concerned about it. And it's probably not going to do anything. But we'll see if that signal increases over the next couple days or not. And if it does continue to increase, the NHC will most likely highlight it. Let's see here. All right, let me go back to Gracious Day. I mean, that's just some impressive radar imagery right there. For a tropical storm, like, that is actually extremely impressive. I'm pretty sure it looks trash on satellite, but that is actually very impressive on reflectivity. I gotta hand it to it. It's actually impressive. Yeah, if you look above my face cam, you can see how pathetic it looks on satellite imagery. It's just a big blob of convection. But it is way more organized on reflectivity. That looks super impressive. And you can even see the velocity signature starting to show that too. Let me see here. I don't think there will be anything significant for Illinois. Like I said, if there's anything solid, we'll start talking about it. We gave a heads up on that severe weather threat nearly a week out, but it doesn't look to be anything notable. We just mentioned it. I don't think it will be making it to Chicago either. It's like a western to northern plains threat generally out here. East of the Rockies, so you'd be looking at, if I had to draw this general area here for a severe weather threat, anywhere from September 17th, 18th, all the way to the 21st. Because you're going to have troughs that dig in like this. They're going to start out here as a positive trough, then they're going to turn neutral, and then go into a negative trough as it's moving to the northeast, and then probably end up being a more substantial severe threat for like Manitoba, far western Ontario. The 26th too far out. There you go. Is that good? 26th too far out. There you go. If I had to look, I don't see anything. There's barely a signal. What do I think? Let me see. Let's see if you even have a chance for rain that day. Yeah, you could see some rain. Some light rain may be a possibility out there. But thank you for the $5 donation. But no, I don't see severe weather there. Now, if you use a single deterministic GFS model run, I think the 12Z shows something. Yeah. The 12Z shows some severe weather. The 00Z doesn't. The 06Z doesn't. The 18Z from yesterday doesn't. The 12Z from yesterday. It's just one model run that shows severe weather, and I bet you it's going to be gone on the newest GFS. Which we'll have to wait a couple minutes for that to actually render in, but yeah, if you guys haven't already, make sure you hit that like button. Share the stream with your family, friends if you can. Share the channel. It's greatly appreciated. Subscribe if you are new. Pending a stream tomorrow will be determined on if I chase, as well as on Tuesday. I'll most likely be live some point over the next 2 days. We'll just see what happens. But I did want to just hop on here for an hour to let y'all know about this tropical storm threat. Not really a need to go much more over an hour, so we'll just stay live for a couple more minutes here till we reach an hour. But I still can't get over how impressive that looks on radar. What's the ocean heat content out here? Is there a way that this overperforms model runs in the National Hurricane Center? Oh. Yeah, ocean heat content is garbage. Sea surface temperatures, I'm sure they've got to be at least 30 Celsius at the minimum. Let's see. Western Atlantic. Oh, actually they're not. They're about 28, 29. 28, 29 Celsius, which is still favorable, so it's not the best environment out here. Any dry air issues, perhaps? Let me go ahead and check dry air. Nope. No dry air issue. Wind shear issue. Just trying to look at anything that could inhibit this from strengthening beyond model runs expectations here. I got to go to the Atlantic to look at the wind shear. I cannot find it. I cannot find the wind shear. Well, I'm sure there is a little wind shear out here. There we go. Nope, wrong product. Why am I... Oh, it's at the top. There it is. Yes, there's wind shear. There's definitely wind shear. So what's going to limit this is going to be wind shear and limited time over water. So I don't see this getting over, what, 50? Is that what the NHC saying? 50, 55 miles per hour sustained. I think that's the maximum, like the absolute max we could see. So, definitely want to keep an eye on it for sure. Make sure preparations are rushed to completion if you're out here in this blue area, which goes all the way from southwest of Charleston, South Carolina, all the way up even beyond Beaufort, North Carolina. That extends down towards Southport, North Myrtle Beach, Georgetown. That's where me and Lucky went, actually. So for Debbie, me and Lucky started our chase. I think we started North Myrtle Beach. No, we went in Myrtle Beach, then North Myrtle Beach. Then we went to Georgetown. Then we went to Wilmington. So these are actually the same areas me and Lucky went. If I were going to chase this tropical storm, I would probably end up going to Southport. I'd probably end up going somewhere near Southport or southwest, around Wilmington. Somewhere around here is where I would go. Let me see. The NHC is forecasting landfall just to the southwest of Georgetown. Yeah, that's not gonna happen. At least that's... Jeez, that's not what it looks like. Holy crap. Buddy, you're supposed to be going this way. Look at it. Here's your cone of uncertainty. Here's where the NHC has the low pressure, not but an hour, 40 minutes ago. Here's where the low pressure actually is. Where it's supposed to be versus where it actually is. So that's not going to happen. The fact that your low pressure is already that far to the northeast, that's going to shift your whole cone is going to shift all the way towards Myrtle Beach, Wilmington, Southport. So this will probably start a westward turn, I imagine, a quite sharp westward turn over the next 6 hours and start heading quite quickly towards Myrtle Beach, Southport, and Wilmington. I'm going to bring this all the way back to the 5 o'clock update. Yeah, so you could see the low pressure was right about here, right? And watch that meander off to the southeast and then moves here. And now it's over this way. So that is really unique right there. That's just because it's a tropical storm. It's not well organized at the moment. It's not even a tropical storm. It's PTC. So until it can get some better organization going, that low pressure is probably going to continue to flop around. I wouldn't be shocked if a new blob of convection starts to try to fire over here and the low pressure relocates back to the southwest. So we'll need to monitor that throughout the night. I'll definitely keep an eye on it, but I'm not going to stay up all night looking at it. But I'm probably going to end up waking up early tomorrow just in case I want to do a last second chase. I don't know, dude. There's gonna have to be quite a big uptrend in order for me to chase this thing. It's gonna have to be quite the uptrend. But I'll see about it. You never know. I would like to chase it at some point. I don't know when that best opportunity will be, whether it will be Tuesday for the tornado threat, possibly in Virginia, or just go into the coastal areas. But yeah, we really covered everything. We talked about the tropical storm, talked about the severe weather potential. I don't want to go too in depth with the AOI or the tropical wave coming off the coastline of northwestern South America, because like I said, there's a lot of question marks for that. There's quite a lot of, from what I've seen, certainty that it's going to move generally into the Caribbean, but where it goes from there, its intensity, when it happens, what the ingredients will be like, that seems to be a big old question mark. It could end up just literally going right into the Yucatan Peninsula as nothing more than just rain. Could end up going up towards Cuba. The Bahamas could end up towards Florida. So we're just going to monitor this whole area. Most likely, the main time frame to watch will be after September 18th is when we'll really start watching that area. Do you think Eastern South Carolina will see any effects from this? Definitely. Yeah, for sure. Depends on where you're located, but Myrtle Beach is already seeing some very minor flooding, most likely starting to occur. That's going to continue throughout the night into all of tomorrow and maybe even into the nocturnal hours of tomorrow as well. You're going to have a tornado threat being a possibility in extremely far eastern South Carolina. Storm surge could be a possibility. More of back out in this area. I don't think South Carolina's going to get in on much storm surge. And yeah, definitely a lot of hazards. Damaging winds sustained around 50, gusts upwards of 65, some tornadoes, definitely flash flooding. So quite a few impacts there. Main issue will be flooding, for sure. In South Carolina, it's going to be flash flooding. That's probably going to be your main story out of this system. From Wednesday and on, yeah. I think Wednesday's when we really got to start watching it, if not after Wednesday. Before then, which is, of course now, it's just too early. We need to get through what's eventually going to be Tropical Storm Helene and get through a few other things as well. Just get closer, I should say. Just get closer. Sorry, I ended up getting distracted. The National Weather Service in Raleigh has a flash flood watch out. Tropical storm warnings in effect for coastal areas. Inland could be some damaging winds. 3 to 7 inches of rainfall. Few tornadoes could occur. Let me go further down here. Minor storm surge is possible. Let's see. I'm just reading their hurricane statement. Interesting. Now, what about the flash flood watch? Oh, hey, I'm in a hazardous... Hold on. I'm in a hazardous weather outlook. Now you piqued my interest. What is this for? Anything? Pretty much nothing. A low-pressure system off the coastline of the Carolinas is expected to move inland into the Carolinas on Monday and Tuesday. Heavy rainfall will be associated with this and is expected Monday afternoon through Tuesday morning, with isolated flash flooding being a possibility. Strong winds will be possible Monday through Tuesday morning as well. Maybe I'll just do a windy chase. I don't know. I don't know if I'm going to chase it at all. I have no idea. That's going to be a call I make early tomorrow. Special. Oh, nope. Hazardous weather outlook for West Virginia's for fire. Potential for fire. So, yeah, definitely quite the bit of impacts from this formed almost out of nowhere. I really wasn't paying that close of attention to it, but I did see, it was a possibility. These things seem to escalate pretty quickly whenever you start to get like a I don't know where I'm going with this. Whenever you start to get like just a random AOI that pops up off the coastline of somewhere, it seems like it escalates fast. I mean, we had Chris out here in the Southwest Gulf. We had also, what's the other storm? The first named storm escalated pretty quick out here too. Whatever the Alberto. And now we have Helene that's escalating pretty quick as well. So it just seems like whenever we get AOIs off the coastline of somewhere, it just tries to escalate really fast. So glad I could give a bit of a heads up through this. We talked about this about 5 days ago, I believe. We were talking about this potentially being a tropical storm for the coastal areas of South Carolina and North Carolina, although it wasn't really that believable at that point. Thank you for tuning in, James, and the kind words. Much appreciated. I do remember that, actually. I covered that. Pretty sure I covered that. If it was in northern Illinois. I remember a couple tornadoes this year in northern Illinois. But, yeah, that's really about it, y'all. We're going to start wrapping up here soon. I just wanted to get on here, do a quick update for you guys, because there was quite a bit of new information. I didn't want to leave you guys hanging for too long. I had some busy stuff over the weekend, but I got here late Sunday. I finally got to do a stream. I was hoping to do a stream on this yesterday, but I ended up getting busy. Then Friday I was busy. So, yeah, I'm just still impressed by that radar, man. That is still impressive to me. Now, it is not, but it looks like an eye is trying to form. I know it's not. It's just the low pressure, so it's not an eye, but it looks like it. It looks like an eye. You can't tell me that does not look like an eye. I'm really impressed by that radar. I'm going to send it to Lucky. Lucky's going to be impacted a lot more than me. He's out there in Raleigh. I'm up here in Martinsville, Virginia. He's in Raleigh, North Carolina. Pennsylvania, yeah. I don't know if it will be on Tuesday. We'll figure this out together since I don't know how to count. So there's Sunday, Monday, Tuesday. Yeah, so Tuesday into Wednesday, Eastern, actually a good chunk of Pennsylvania. Let me go to that day 4 outlook. So yeah, there's your outlook for flash flooding. That's going to be your biggest issue. Some isolated flash flooding for a really good chunk of Pennsylvania, excluding the far northern and northwestern side of Pennsylvania. So watch out for some flash flooding out there. I think that will be the only impact. I don't see a single threat for tornadoes. I don't see a threat for any damaging winds with the low pressure out there. So it should just be a minor flash flooding issue. Let me see if I can get a... Yeah, there is some uncertainty on it, but isolated amounts potentially up to 3 inches will be possible. But there's a lot of uncertainty on exactly where the greatest rainfall threat will be. Alright, see you later, Legacy. I won't be live when you get back. We're gonna start concluding here in less than a minute, actually. So I appreciate you guys tuning in. I'm glad we could reach some more people with the word of this tropical storm. Like I said, I don't really know. We've been watching it, but I really wasn't expecting it. So it didn't pop out of nowhere in the sense of it caught me off guard that it was a tropical storm, which it will be tonight. But it did catch me off guard in terms of it actually, being this solid looking of a potential tropical cyclone. It's overperforming the models is what I'm trying to say. About a week ago, we saw it on the models, and I was very skeptical. I saw it on the models 2-3 days ago. I was still like, it's going to do probably barely anything. And then yesterday is when it started to uptrend a bit. I was like, maybe it has a chance. And then was it the 18Z? It was either the 12Z or the 18Z HRRR came in, and that's when it started piquing my interest. But I wasn't expecting them to call it this early. That's what caught me off guard. That's what really caught me off guard is they called it at 5 o'clock, a potential tropical cyclone. I was expecting it to be more of tomorrow morning, a last second call. So I appreciate you guys tuning in. I will catch you guys whenever my next live stream is. I can't, it should be tomorrow or Tuesday. It's going to depend on if I chase this. So just stay tuned to the community post and we'll figure out when the next stream will be. I'll be live when I am available, and I'll just keep a very close eye on it. If I have a good chance to chase tomorrow or Tuesday, I'm gonna go for it. I feel like you guys would rather have me just chasing as opposed to on here covering it. I like doing both. I don't mind sitting here covering it, and I don't mind chasing, so... but if I do get an opportunity to chase, I'm going to chase. Most likely, I think the better opportunity to chase would be Tuesday. Monday's all the way at the coastline, which is tomorrow, but we'll just see. Thank you guys for tuning in. Thank you, mods, for mod in chat. Thank you for the $5 donation. Evie, and I will see you guys in my next live stream. Have a great rest of your night. Stay safe. Watch some of your brother in the tropics. Good. Bye. stay safe. Watch the severe weather in the tropics. I'll see you guys in my next live stream. Have a great rest of your night. Goodbye.